Imagine this. It's 1787, and the leaders of the newly formed United States have gathered in Philadelphia. They've been debating for months, trying to create a new system of government, a document that will guide the nation forward. But it doesn't happen. Instead of signing the U.S. Constitution, the delegates left, frustrated and divided. There is no agreement. There is no Constitution. Now, let's step into a world where that failure changes everything. And what if the United States never had a Constitution? Without the Constitution, the federal government remains weak. Too weak to enforce laws, to regulate trade between the states, or even to collect taxes. The Articles of Confederation, the system they had before, simply aren't enough to hold the country together. Right away, the states begin to act like separate countries. Some states make their own trade deals with foreign nations. Others impose tariffs, taxing goods that cross state borders. What was supposed to be a United States starts to feel more like a group of rival nations.
And then there's the issue of power. The southern states, where slavery is the foundation of the economy, gained more influence. Without a strong federal government to intervene, slavery not only remains, it spreads. It becomes an untouchable institution, protected by the southern states at all costs.
Without a central government, the fight over slavery, something that happened in our history and led to the Civil War, doesn't happen the same way. Instead, it took the shape of a war between the North and South. However, the North can't mount a strong challenge against the South. The institution of slavery grows stronger. It stretches into the new Western territories such as Kansas, Texas, and California. What we know as free states never existed. Therefore, the idea of a nation divided between free and slave states disappears.
After a while, a pro-slavery president is elected. People like Abraham Lincoln are sidelined and considered too radical for wanting to exterminate slavery. Because of this, there's no Emancipation Proclamation. There's no 13th Amendment. As a result, enslaved people continued to be treated as property, bought and sold like cattle across the entire country.
The consequences are not only felt in the South. Without the Constitution, there is no Bill of Rights. There is no protection for freedom of speech, no guarantee of a free press, and no right to a fair trial. Imagine living in a country where the government can silence you whenever it wants. Journalists who speak out against leaders or criticize those in power are thrown in jail. They lose their freedom just for trying to tell the truth or report what is really happening in the country. Religious minorities, or people who believe in different religions from the majority, are treated unfairly. They are discriminated against, punished, and even attacked simply because of their faith. And in the courts, there is no promise of justice. People can be locked up without any evidence or a trial to prove whether they are guilty or innocent. The states are in chaos. Corruption is everywhere. Politicians and powerful landowners do as they please, with no checks or balances to stop them.
And then there is the violence. Small rebellions start to break out, especially in the North, where abolitionists are bravely standing up, fighting for change. They believe in freedom and justice, and they are willing to risk everything to make it happen. But without a strong, unified government to back them up, these uprisings are swiftly crushed. The power of those in control is too much to overcome. Each time, the hope of freedom for the enslaved is shattered, again and again, leaving them with little more than despair.
Around the world, the United States is viewed as a failed experiment. Other nations see the disorder and instability, and they believe the country is on the edge of collapsing. Without a constitution, there is no strong, stable government and no long-term alliances with other countries. Britain and France, both of which have already ended slavery, want nothing to do with the United States. They refuse to trade or form partnerships, leaving the U.S. isolated on the global stage.
The United States becomes completely isolated, cut off from the rest of the world. The economy starts to crumble. Trade routes that once brought in goods and money come to an end. The technological and industrial progress we are familiar with today, like railroads, factories, and communication systems, never happened. But why? Well, it can be because slavery provides cheap labor. There is no need to innovate or develop new technologies when the country can simply continue exploiting enslaved people for work.
By the 20th century, the United States, in this alternate reality, is a mere shadow of what it could have been. It is not the global superpower we know today. Instead, it is a fractured, broken nation with states that are constantly in conflict with each other. Civil rights? They do not exist. Any effort to question or change the current situation is met with harsh and brutal force. Without the protections of the Constitution, there is no chance for movements like women's liberation movement or the civil rights movement of the 1960s. As a result, social and political progress is entirely halted.
It brings us to a point where the country is stuck in the past. It is ruled by fear and oppression, where progress is impossible and people live under constant control and intimidation.
But now, let's return to reality. Let's remember what really happened. In 1787, the U.S. Constitution was signed. It wasn't perfect, but it was a foundation, a framework for a nation that could change, evolve, and grow. It gave us a strong federal government that could unite the states and a system of checks and balances to prevent any one group from gaining too much power. And it gave us the Bill of Rights, 10 amendments that protect our most basic freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to a fair trial. These are freedoms we often take for granted, but they are essential to what makes America truly special. The Constitution also opened the door to progress. It gave future generations the tools they needed to challenge the wrongs of slavery, fight for civil rights, and work towards equality. Without it, we might never have seen the end of slavery or experienced the civil rights movements that have helped shape the nation. So, what if the U.S. had never signed the Constitution? What if we had remained divided, weak, and stuck in old ideas? The answer is clear. We would have lost the very things that define freedom and democracy. The Constitution is more than just a piece of paper. It is the reason we have the rights, unity, and progress that we value today. So next time you think about the Constitution, remember, it didn't just give us a government. It gave us hope for a better future. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our presentation and found it meaningful, please give us a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback and support mean a lot to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps and keeps me motivated to create more content. Thank you once again for being with us.